The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is an action-adventure role-playing game that was developed and published by Nintendo. When looking at how long to beat, credits are usually seen at about 59 hours of gameplay. I didn't get to see those credits until about 70 hours, which is fine for me. I've always been a fan of The Legend of Zelda ever since I was a little kid, with Wind Waker being the first one I ever beat when I was 14. I actually left the system on while on a week-long vacation just so I wouldn't lose my progress in the final battle. If you're looking for games like this, try looking at Immortals Phoenix Rising, Genshin Impact, and The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Enough talking, let's get into the meat of the video. I'm Vivix Tales, this is Backlog Worthy. Let's talk about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The gameplay of Tears of the Kingdom is pretty much broken into two parts: fighting and exploring. There is no right way to go about the game, and that is something I enjoyed about it. I found myself going to every Skyview tower to open up my map before I even began to take the story seriously. For me, exploring the open world I've been given was a lot more fun than trying my hand at fighting Moblin's Bokoblin, probably because I know I would have had some problems. Did you watch my last video on Metroid Dread? Of course you did. I've started to enjoy parry systems in video games, and looky here. Tears of the Kingdom has one called Flurry Rush. Blocking or jumping at the last possible second slows down time and allows Link to get a few hits in on the enemy. After missing a few parry opportunities, I can't express how it feels to hear the slowdown noise and see the A button blinking, wanting you to use the Flurry Rush. Sadly, this wasn't a mechanic that I used too much, as I avoided combat as much as possible besides the challenge of strength shrines. Any battle I would have found my way in was easily avoidable, simply by taking an alternate path. I probably missed out on a lot of cool fights, such as battles against Lynels and Gleeoks, but I would have never fought against them anyway. I was just happy exploring this expanded version of Hyrule at my own leisure. Shrines are still a big part of Tears of the Kingdom, just as they were in Breath of the Wild, and I still don't care too much for them. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind puzzles in games. I even enjoy a puzzle game or two. And I can hear you saying, well, Zelda has always been about finding the solution to a puzzle to progress. And I would have to agree with you. My main gripe with the shrines is that there are so many, and Light of Blessings are locked away behind these puzzles. I can say that I really did like the Raru's Blessing shrines, as all I had to do was collect my loot and leave. With Link losing his arm and gaining another, he gains access to Zonai abilities. These are a key part of progressing through the game, and probably one of my favorite things about Tears of the Kingdom. The fuse mechanic was a cool concept, but something I unfortunately didn't really use until late game. And this isn't Nintendo's fault at all. It's more on me for trying to brute force my way through everything. Fuse is a good mechanic when you use it though. Fusing items to your weapon, shield, or arrows can increase your attack and defense, or add an elemental status, or even some cool things like lifting you in the air. Once I got used to actually using the Zonai abilities, I really enjoyed them. The Ascend ability felt like a godsend through my playthrough. It's an ability that lets you go through flat surfaces and appear on the top. I honestly couldn't tell you how, but Ascend is the only reason I was able to find the main room within the Lightning Temple. I have no idea how I got lost in there, but I can always find a way. Ultra Hand is another Zonai ability that Link has access to pretty much as soon as you get the newfound arm. This ability allows you to manipulate objects around you, such as moving them around and turning them at different angles. It doesn't even stop there, as you can stick multiple objects together to create anything your heart desires. Whether it's a flying vehicle to traverse the depths, or a device crafted to torture Koroks, the choice is yours. Auto Build is an ability that goes hand in Ultra Hand with the last ability. This ability allows you to create past creations from memory, given you have enough Zonite for it. That's all it does really. There's not really much to talk about when it comes to auto build. Recall is the last main Zonai ability that Link has in his arsenal, and it's a pretty useful one for exploring, at least to my standards. Recall allows you to move an item back through time to its original placement. I always use this on falling debris from the sky to lift me up into the clouds, just so I could paraglide my way back down to the ground while looking for anything interesting on my way back down. The story in Tears of the Kingdom has to be one of my favorite stories in a Zelda game that I've played. I thought that the idea of Link and Zelda witnessing the awakening of the Demon King was an interesting premise. That, along with the fact that the Master Sword is shattered by Ganondorf and Link loses his arm fairly quickly into the game, shows that this man is no joking matter. Link being in the present and Zelda residing in the past was another thing that I thought was interesting. For a lack of a better way to explain it, Zelda kept willingly creating butterfly effects in order to change the outcome for her future and Link's present. Something I didn't care too much for when it came to the story was how each of the sages' awakenings were pretty much identical to one another. Each sage was able to find out what they needed to know about the imprisoning war, but it did feel like I was watching the same cutscene over and over, but with a different character or two standing there. I feel like these stories could have been handled better. Something that could have helped is that the cutscenes could still explain the imprisoning war to the sages, but also show them and the player the part that the original sage played when it came to the imprisoning war. Having 3 different areas to explore between the sky, mainland, and depths made exploring almost limitless. The main map is pretty much identical to the map of Breath of the Wild, outside of chasms littered throughout Hyrule. I thought that the sky was really fun to explore, especially with the lower gravity jumping. Like any dark place though, I was scared to explore the depths too much. I really did try to limit my time there, and I don't even think I fought enemies down there. That being said, they were fun to explore as soon as I found light routes to light up my travels there. Despite what the title of the games have been for the last 43 years, Link is actually the main character of the Legend of Zelda series. I really enjoyed his design in Breath of the Wild, specifically the champion's tunic that he had. I didn't really think that Nintendo could really top that design in Tears of the Kingdom, but I realized I was wrong when I saw Link lose his arm and promptly get a new one. Outside of Toon Link from Wind Waker, Spirit Tracks, and Phantom Hourglass, I think this incarnation of the hero is my runner-up for my favorite design. Zelda played a great role in Tears of the Kingdom. Like I said previously, I did really enjoy her changing the past to help the present. Something else I really enjoyed about her was finding the dragon's tears scattered all over Hyrule, since it gave you a better look of Zelda's time in the past. Towards the end, her cutscenes actually started making me emotional, just due to the choices that she had to make. This variation of Ganondorf honestly tops every other variation in my eyes. This one felt like he posed a threat, and man, did he pose a threat. Ganondorf felt truly evil in Tears of the Kingdom, and I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it's the fact that he was able to fight and kill everyone just by himself, or the fact that despite being imprisoned for thousands of years, that time took nothing from him when it came to how powerful he is. Even as a husk, he almost killed Link and definitely did break the Master Sword. I cannot explain how much I enjoyed Ganondorf's design in this game, especially when it came to the husk form and when he was powered up with his glowing red hair. Some new characters would be Rauru and Sonia, both characters that have had their first mainland appearances in a Zelda game. It was refreshing to see the beginning of what became of the Kingdom of Hyrule alongside the events of the Imprisoning War. Alongside these characters, we get to see the sages who have finally awakened due to the events of Tears of the Kingdom. Tulin, Sidon, Riju, and Yunobo. Sure, we've seen these characters in Breath of the Wild, but we also get to see these characters in a more mature light when they've taken up their mantles. Except for Tulin. He's still kind of just the son of the Rito Elder, with little to no responsibility of his own. It seems like most of the time, it feels like music that Nintendo makes can never miss, with some exceptions. Tears of the Kingdom is no exception to this though. I fell in love with the music as soon as I saw the trailers for this game, and once again as I booted this game up on my Switch. All of the music fit the tone when it had to for the most part. Even the less serious music fit in, like the music of the Muktarok battle. The majority of, if not all the music throughout my playthrough made my adventure through Hyrule feel more serious, more dangerous, more risky, and sometimes just happy to be there. The main theme of Tears of the Kingdom is my favorite track in the OST. Just like in RPGs, JRPGs, and even anime, the main theme acts as an opening to this grand adventure you're about to embark on. There's just something about this song that made me hyped to go into this game. Something that games I've played and beaten recently just didn't do. I'm glad that all it took was one song to get me hooked, until I dropped it for Diablo 4 for a bit. But I'm happy I was able to play this game excitedly nonetheless. If there's two art styles that I'll always fall in love with in video games, it's pixel art and cell shading. Tears of the Kingdom takes cell shading and just runs with it. Sure, it looks a bit cartoony or childish, but I feel like there's just so much passion with its art style. I do feel like this art style fits this game quite well, and I just can't exactly explain how. Like, we've seen this art style in other Zelda games, like Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, and Wind Waker, but Tears of the Kingdom feels like it has refined that. It's probably the lack of Toon Link in this game, but hey, what do I know? The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a phenomenal game that I've played this year, and I'm glad it only took so much trash talking from my friend to get me to pick it up again. Out of all the games I've played this year, which isn't that much, it's like 14, I can say that Tears of the Kingdom is my game of the year so far. Only until I find that next favorite game that I discover. This game gets a 10 out of 10 for me. It absolutely deserves to be placed in your backlog. Hell, I'll even go as far as to say don't let it sit in your backlog. Pop it right in your system and start having an amazing adventure throughout a destroyed kingdom of Hyrule.